Good morning, everybody. And today I'm going to read to you just a small piece from the Bhagavad Gita. This is Pearl here in Galway, in the west of Ireland. And I'm going to read from chapter 2. It's called The Practice of Yoga. And here we have Arjuna, who is refusing to take up the fight. He says he cannot kill off what were friends to him or relatives of his. Now, these can be looked at, this Arjuna can be looked at as ourselves not being willing to kill off the demons in ourselves and the things we take comfort from, like our desires and expectations and the things we've gotten attached to. And so you have to think about this, especially at this time, because we're in a 24-hour eclipse window, and we're in the last fortnight of what is the usual 2-week cycle every 6 months. And so this particular eclipse is demanding that we will let go, and we'll have to let go and have to face realities of things we have to let go of. But because everything is at practically the last degree or the first degree of a sign, it would suggest that we're really at a big turning point for ourselves. This eclipse is squaring with Saturn, and Saturn also wants us to face reality about things that aren't working for us. He's like the traffic light or the white line on the road that says, no, you can't go any further. Here, you've got to change direction or slow down or take your time and wait for the time to be right. Wait for the red light to release and let you go when you get the green light, and then you can go, but you have to discipline yourself and wait for it. And impatience won't help you. It'll only bring you grief. So you can sit and cry at the traffic light if you like, and for as long as you like, but nonetheless the traffic light won't change until Saturn says it's time to go. And so we have to discipline ourselves, and if we're not able to do that, and maybe we have too high expectations, we don't want to be delayed, which is what Saturn does. But maybe he's saving us from something way worse than having to sit at a traffic light. Maybe he's protecting us. And so we need to understand this about a time of change, that maybe we may sit and cry at the door that's closed to us, but we need to, when we're finished crying, and we'll rise again. The crucified is the crying when we've been stopped in our tracks from whatever foolishness and innocence we were engaged in. And so you have the hidden Christ, and the crucified Christ is the time we spend crying over what's not for us. And the risen is the wisdom to go again, but go with a bit more dignity and knowledge and maturity. And so what Krishna says to, Krishna was the driver of the carriage, where Arjuna got down of the carriage and went on his knees and says, no, in despair, I can't do this. I'm not able to face that. And he can't kill off all these qualities. And Krishna says, although you mean well, Arjuna, your sorrow is sheer delusion. Wise people do not grieve for the dead or for the living. Never was there a time when I did not exist, or you, or these kings, nor will there come a time when we cease to be. So this is the lesson, that there's no end to us. There's no end. There's just a continuous living. And ideally to live a life with purpose, and to live a life that through things that we're drawn to, through what we love, through what's good for us. And our Krishna goes on to say, Just as in this body the self passes through childhood, youth and old age, so after death it passes to another body. Physical sensations, cold and heat, pleasure and pain, are transient. They come and they go. So bear them patiently. And that's what we're being asked to do now, is to be patient. We're in, as I said, a lunar eclipse cycle that's at, you could say, the Sun, the Moon, Rahu and Ketu, Saturn and Mars are all at 0 degrees, or either the last degree of a sign or the first degree of a sign. And so the last degree of a sign is like too old to make a difference, and the first degree of a sign is too young to make a difference. So like one is a baby, an infant, and the other is a very old person. And so neither are fit in the fitness of, we'd say, the difference between childhood and youth and middle life and old age. And so you know these stages, these things make sense. When something is at the ending of a sign, there's 30 degrees in a sign, or in the way they're measured in astrology, there's 360 degrees based on the number of times that the sun and the moon meet in the year. 12 times in the year gives us our circle of 12 times 30 is 360. So we've roughly 360 days in this year, or in this cycle of the sun and the moon. So when the moon is with the sun, it has returned to the beloved. And when the moon is full, like it is today, and it's come back and come into its own and more able to express itself. But on an eclipse day, that full moon is not available, it's not visible to us. We get to see something within us that's psychologically asking for our attention. And so we don't rightly know what that is. We don't know what's going to come up out of the dark. Like, astrology gives you some indication of what might arise, but it's not a certainty of what's going to come, because it comes out of the shadow. It comes out of something that maybe you didn't want to see, but now it's your time to come in to see it. It's a whole new cycle that we're beginning between the Aries, which is the sign to do with new beginnings, and Libra, which is the sign of compromise. And so we need to be aware that we're going to have to make the changes. These are movable signs, so we have to make the changes. The last 18 months, the cycle has been focused on fixed signs and things that didn't want to change. And the other thing that's there for the last while as well is opposite, opposing forces. One set of energies wanting to control everything in the human being, what they spend, what they eat, where they go, and they're talking about chipping us now, so they'd be able to keep a record of everything we're doing. And at the same time, we have an opposing force of people who want to set up their own small businesses and stop feeding the multinationals who have taken up so much control over us that they're talking about culling birds and animals and people, too many of these creatures on the planet. But there can't be too many people on the planet or creatures on the planet, because these are God-given. If there was too many, God will take them away, and if the divine forces will take them away. Because there's a divine force in everything. We're just part of it. We're part of that divine nature, and we have it in us too. We have that divinity in us, and we need to find that in ourselves now. And the way that can be found is through studying what is the Bhagavad Gita. And there's a little bit about the eclipse as well in the book that's on my website, Pearls of Wisdom. lunareclipse.com, that you can look it up, and it will give you a small insight. But one of the things that I say, um, an eclipse is an omen for change on the way. It exposes hidden possibilities that are about to surface. And so the mind, the moon, is being triggered to bring transformation to our physical reality. We are the physical reality of the earth. So our mind and our bodies are being asked to transform in this cycle. And this comes every 6 months. Nothing stays the same. And there's no certainties. Even with astrology, we can see that there's a path. We can see the timing. We can see what the time is good for. Like the time right now is good for standing still and being quiet. As Carl Jung says, he who looks outside dreams, he who looks within awakens. And this is a time to look within. Saturn, who's at 0 degrees also, about to make a change, or just making the changes. You could say everything is at this 0 place. The bags are packed, they're ready to go. They don't want to be dealing with outside issues. It's now time to focus down. And so Saturn's like the traffic light. It says, you've got to stop here now for a few minutes and gather your what you need and what you need to bring with you and into the next phase of your life. And this is a turning point, whether you work for yourself going forward or whether you work for a multinational. These are choices you can make. The opportunities are there with the internet and with the social media to be able to reach an audience that you could never have reached if you were waiting for the mainstream media to promote you or to sell your products or create new designs. There's so much possibilities opening up through the technology. But if there's also forces out there that want to control you through the technology. And we have to let these people fight this out right now, the individual versus the multinational. And who will survive, we don't rightly know. And we'll probably find a mix of the two, because it's like an elastic band. And Mercury is retrograde at the moment as well. And that's another reason. Retrograde is caused by the pull of the earth, or the pull of the sun and the earth. And so the sun allows the planets to go a certain distance away, and then it pulls it back in. Like an elastic band, you can only go so far, and then you have to come back, and you find the middle ground, and you can go again. So we will have to find a middle ground. And the lovely thing about right now is that Jupiter is in the sign of Pisces. Now, he can't go much further than Pisces because of the forces on either side of him, these forces that are being pulled in two directions for the independence and for the control. And so, but what it is very good for is for meditation, for feeding your soul, for reaching out to teachers that can guide you. And one of the things I find fascinating is the number of poets and philosophers and teachers who went east to India to understand and to learn about how to work with that inner self, that divine self, and connect with that energy in us, because they believe the divine is in us. In the West, we're more trained to think of it outside of us and that somebody out there is going to rescue us. But in actual fact, it's the divine within you that is always there for you, whether you see it or not, that will rescue you. And to nurture that peace within yourself that needs strengthening right now. And to stop the blaming and the shaming and the negative talk that you're giving yourself, that you're not enough. Because you are, because you're a creature of this, created uniquely, like nobody else in the whole world. And you need to see that. We need to see that. Because if you try to fit to the groove, you're not being true to yourself. And Oscar Wilde says, one of his many quotations is, be yourself, everyone else is taken. And that's the truth. And the other thing Rumi says that I continually refer to is that message that everyone that comes into your life is a teacher to show you who you are and how you are in that relationship. But in that relationship with yourself, because it's with yourself, you make your peace with yourself, it's easy to make peace with everyone else. But you will criticise, you will do the name calling, you will do the judging while you're looking outside, because you want to blame somebody else for how things are and not look at yourself and look that you need to love the you as you are and not have to depend on a magazine or a particular stylist or whatever the opinion might be on how you should or could, whether it's be a particular size or shape or like a particular colour. You have to like what you like yourself. God is the mask that's beauty. You know, beauty is the mask that God is wearing. What you see as beautiful is 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 God in its form, and it keeps pulling you. You can't take your eyes off it. So you look to see what's beautiful. Could be a cloud, bird, flower, stars, moon, whatever you look to that you see as beautiful. Just follow the thread and it'll take you to the beauty in yourself, because you have to see it in yourself before you can see it in something else. Because if you can't see it in yourself, you won't be able to see it outside. But once you get a glimpse of it outside, once you see a beauty, you know you have it, because you wouldn't recognize it if you didn't have it. And that's where you start from, knowing and recognizing that beauty in yourself. So I'm going to leave it there for today. As I said, take it easy, be quiet, don't be too demanding on yourself. Look for the good, look for the beauty. Any small thing, from a small child, anything that touches your heart today will be your prayer. Thanks very much for listening to me. Om Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. It means, may all beings in all worlds be blessed. Om Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings in all worlds be blessed. Om Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Thank you.